All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our administrative public meeting of September 16th. Kyla, would you like to do roll call for us?
Of course. In person in the Sophie and Louise room, I have myself, Kyla Leonards, Commissioner Strohmeyer, Commissioner Smotlett, Commissioner Vero, Chris Lounsbury, Mel Fisher, Ann Hughes, Allison Franz, Sarah Bell, Caitlin Bauer, Mark Lax, Anna Conley, and Emmy Bristow. And online, we have Amanda Henthorn, Annie Cathy, Casey Gannon, Dan Maneda, Aaron Lipkin, Jason Emery, Melissa Gordon, Nancy Rattel, Sydney Kennedy, Connor McCauley, Craig Best, Emily Armstrong, Heidi Bakla, Johnny J. Bonnie, Jordan Hansen, Christy P., Lisa Sorosis, Lisa Smith, Martin Kitston, Nick Cresterson, Joshua Plum, and Tessa Nadeau.
Holy smokes, it's a crowd pleaser today for only 3 agenda items, so that is great. Well, welcome everyone. As we do at all of these meetings, we begin with any public comment on non-agenda items. If you're in the room, come on up to the table and activate the mic and sit in the hot seat here. If you're online, joining via Microsoft Teams, please raise your hand and we will call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. Any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Okay, the one announcement I will make, and this might be news to some but not others, it looks like we're going to have our 17th county in the rail authority, Mineral County, our neighbor to the west. Next week we'll be having a public hearing on joining the rail authority. So 17, we've crossed the tipping point and have more counties involved than we are still waiting to hear from. So with that, let's dive right into our 3 action items. The first is brought to us by Amanda Henthorn. This is a request to approve the fiscal year 2021 budget adjustments as detailed in the attachments to this item. Amanda.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is part 1 of the previous fiscal year's budget adjustments. As you can imagine, with COVID this year, there were a few things that were unexpected, and the attachments really reflect that. So it's in some instances a rebalancing of expenses, and in others, it's adding in grants or additional funding that we got from outside sources to help deal with COVID during the year. Overall. It's really pretty much rebalancing and adding in those additional funds. There is very little that's actually, budget overages per se.
Thanks, Amanda. Questions? Okay. How about a motion?
I move that the board approve the fiscal year 2021 budget adjustments as detailed in the attachments. Thanks, Amanda.
Is there any further discussion or public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Next, we have been waiting with bated breath for this. It's always good to have you, Aaron Lipkin, join us. You have for us a request to approve the 2021 to 22 public schools budgets and authorize me as the chair to sign such a thing.
That's correct. You should have in front of you or in the attachments the signature pages for each of the school districts' budgets. Additionally, you should have an explanation of the mill levy changes. And the other sheet that we prepare every year is the taxpayer cost on a $100,000 home. So just a few things to point out about the school district's budget this year. There's nothing really extraordinary, except that we saw a significant increase in taxable values throughout the county, and that resulted in a decrease in the number of mills that are assessed on any home, except in Lolo, where we did see an increase in taxable values, but they had voted for a 30-year bond, and so they've seen a significant increase in their debt services fund, which will go on for years to come. Frenchtown also saw a decrease because they had a building reserve levy that sunsetted. So that decreased their mills even more than just the increase in taxable values. Those are the only, changes really worth noting on the mill levy changes sheet. So I'm here today requesting that you approve the school budgets for the 22 fiscal year.
Thanks, Aaron. And just by way of note, I think the last time we saw a $100,000 home was 1999, maybe. But anyway, questions for Aaron?
Would there be a way to adjust that to a
yeah.
$400,000 home? So for people reading it, it would make more sense, or they wouldn't have.
Right. This is how it's done statutorily, I believe, this is how when we run mill levies, it's always, we have to report on a $100,000 home. And so that's just traditionally how it's presented.
Okay.
Thanks yet again to the state.
Yes.
Thanks.
Tradition. Any other questions?
I'm happy to move that the chair sign the 2020 budget.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Commissioners?
Oh, who is that?
Sorry, Commissioners, this is Annie. I am unable to hear Josh. Is his microphone on?
It is. I'll try it
I
again.
can't hear,
Can you hear him now?
How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. So I would move that we approve the 2021-22 public schools budget and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Further discussion or any public comment on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Thank you,
thanks, Aaron.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, our third and final item today, which is probably why many folks are on the line joining us, is brought to us by Casey Gannon and Chris Lonsberry. This is part and parcel of Operation Rescue or Shelter, excuse me, Rescue, geez. Operation Shelter, and we are going to be talking about a campground plan review, and this is property located at the intersection of Concrete Way and Clark Fork Lane. Chris, do you want to lead off?
And I'll quickly turn it over to Casey here so we can walk you through that plan. So commissioners, what we're looking for today is direction to staff and authorization to submit a campground plan for review by the appropriate agencies, including the city and the health department, to create a sanctioned campsite to address those who are currently unhoused and currently camping in and on either public or private lands outside of where that's allowed. As Commissioner Strohmeyer mentioned, this is in the area of Concrete Way and Clark Fork. So for folks who are not familiar, this is just directly to the north and slightly west of the wastewater treatment plant at the end of Clark Fork. And with that, I will let Casey walk you through what some of the site design for that might look like in the application.
Thank you. Casey, it's all yours. Up, you're muted, Casey.
Here we go. You got me now?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. So just kind of gonna present the basic concept behind this, what we're calling the authorized camping area. And as Chris said, it's at the intersection of Clark Fork Lane and Concrete Way. The reason for not giving the address was because if people look up the address, Google will put it in a completely different location. So I'll share a map, my screen here, which will have a map to give you guys a better idea and the public an idea of where it's located. This is, we have Mullen and Reserve here. So it's just behind the Walmart that's off of that corner is the site we're looking at. It's a 3-acre site. So and then it's pretty close to resources, so it's only 0.3 miles to the grocery and 0.7 miles to a bus stop. So good access for people staying there. Our plan of services that will be at this campground area we'll have some bathrooms there. There'll be trash removal in terms of dumpsters. We'll just be putting out some areas for people for tent sites. There'll be security at the site, and then we're also working on having water available at the site.
Casey, when you say tent sites, are you talking platforms?
So at this point, Josh, we are looking at just putting out pretty much we're looking at using like a grass astroturf and just putting out some like 20 by 20 pads for people to stake into on the ground out there. So we're not looking at building out large wooden pads at this point.
Thanks.
So up now is the proposed site plan that we're looking to submit to the Department of Health and Human Services at the state. These blue squares you see are those tent pads I'm talking about. They measure 20 feet by 20 feet, so giving ample room for someone to set up a tent and have their own personal space. And then they are also spaced out by 20 feet on each side to kind of give some space between people staying there. The site will be fully enclosed with a fence, most likely a chain link fence with some sort of slats or screening in it. This will help provide security for the people staying there and to kind of close off the site. There'll be a large gate at the front entrance for access, and also a pedestrian gate next to that as well. Then we'll have bathrooms. At this point, we're just looking at using porta potties, and then we'll have a hand washing station, and then one at each end. Along with this, we'll have a dumpster and likely some sort of place to store supplies. So right now, this site plan holds about 51 tent pads, and we might look at just kind of opening the front half at first and phase it in as we kind of see how it operates with that many people in there and see if it can expand to the back. But understanding the need right now is most likely we'll have to open up the whole site and kind of maximize the use of this site for camping. So that's the general layout and the general plan. We are looking at putting security cameras around the perimeter and some lighting as well. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, it's Casey, is there a kind of a staff tent in the same way that there is at TSOS? And what are we thinking about for heating?
Yeah, so we're still working on the fine details in terms of staff and stuff like that. It might just be kind of a basic tent structure up front. And then at heating, that is still up for debate. At this point, we're looking at kind of low services at this site, so we have not really planned on providing heating at this time. But we're working with community partners and people in the service industry that might want to help provide something like that.
Potential to have a yurt with some type of heater in it.
Yeah, there's adequate room in this front zone. That's why we have these kind of two large, I'm calling them kind of community areas, to set up service provider resources and stuff like that in those areas.
Chris?
Yeah, so I just want to remind the commission, so this is separate from what will be a staffing plan that would be separate for this. This is the piece that's required for regulatory approval, which is the first step in this process. We are working with several service providers here in town, including the Poverello Center, Partnership Health Center, and others as far as the service plan, and that will come to you as a separate piece from the site plan, which is more about the need to submit this for regulatory approval as
So,
opposed to service.
So what is the state looking for in terms of regulatory approval for a site like this?
Like
So it-
campground, right? Is it?
So this would go through the state's traditional campground piece, and Casey might be able to speak to more exactly what they're looking for, but we need to be able to provide sanitation to the site. And as Casey's talked about, that will include porta potties in the beginning, although there is plans to bring in water, running water to the facility as well. But that, again, will take a little bit of time in order to be able to accomplish, although there is water running adjacent to it on Clark Fork Way, or Clark Fork Lane, I'm sorry. And but these are just trying to meet those minimum requirements for a temporary campground under the states.
So Chris or Casey, talk to us a little bit more about process. So an action today for us would be to authorize staff to submit the application to DPHHS, but how does the city play into this, since this is property owned by the city. Who is the actual applicant? Is it a joint application or?
So Casey is working on this as a joint project. So I'll defer a little bit to Casey. I believe it would be the city who would be the official signer because it's their property, but I'm not sure. So I defer if Casey knows for sure.
I think Bruce Bender's working on their behalf.
On the utility piece. Yeah.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, just process wise, since Missoula County is not the applicant, just talk to us a little bit more about what action today we are taking. Is it to support the city submitting an application or?
But also Casey again is county staff. So even though he's working on a joint city county project, he still needs direction from his employer, and that's Missoula County. So we do need Casey to do that. Casey is working on this as a joint project, so he may be the signer even though it's city property for that. And then of course, related to the staffing plan and cost, the city and county have agreed as part of their budget process to do that. And again, as a reminder, your piece of that budgeting process, which is the American Rescue Plan funds, you have your second public meeting on that on September 23rd.
Hence where I got the word rescue earlier. So Casey, do you want to elaborate on process?
Yeah, so like this will be submitted to the state health department and pretty much following their campground rules, which is like Chris stated, making sure we have proper sanitation and layout and water supplies provided. So it's pretty straightforward, and I don't see any hurdles, but that is a maximum of 60-day wait time in terms of their response. So we'll kind of be on their timetable in terms of hearing back from them. But this initial step, yeah, we've been working closely with the city officials to come up with this and to work out the logistics of using this site. So they're on board and supportive of this site plan and the application.
Thanks.
As soon as we can submit it, or when does the clock begin for those 60 days?
Yeah, as soon as I submit it. So once I have the go ahead, like I said, it's pretty straightforward of just explaining the site. So it shouldn't take me too long to put it together and get it in.
So today, could it be submitted?
In the next couple days.
Next couple of days. Josh.
A couple questions. So as we move forward and bring water and sewer to the site, does that mean a second application? That's question one. And then question two, we've got a site plan here. What sort of flexibility? And partly it's because I can't read the fine print from this distance. If we decide, oh, we would like to have a larger yurt on this site for service providers, or a yurt for heating and a yurt for service providers, does that have to be on this map right now?
I don't believe so. I'll double check with the health department, but mostly what they're looking for is sanitation and kind of meeting the basic health requirements of the site, not necessarily, we can't have any sort of permanent structures like a yurt might qualify. So there's different qualifications, but tents
Or
are.
say a wall tent. I was trying to come up with a name for a large space that didn't have a
Yeah.
foundation.
So yeah, a wall tent would qualify as a tent and be fine. So we're also working with the fire marshal, and some of more regulations are actually coming through them in terms of where the tents are set up and what kind of tents are set up.
So the site plan in terms of this application isn't necessarily carved in stone. The real pieces are on water and sanitation.
Yeah, the services being provided are more what the state is reviewing.
Great. Let's go ahead and see if there's any public comment on this. Yeah, come on up to the table here and make yourself comfortable. Please hit the button on the microphone base that will turn the light green. If you could state your name and share with us your thoughts.
Hi, my name's Mark Lax. I own 1225 Clark Fork Lane, next to the proposed site, next to the compost.
This is Andrew Cherney. How are you?
Could someone mute themselves, please? Okay, sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
I'll try to make it quick. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a father. I own a couple properties in town. I have a partner in business, and we employ 70 people all across the state of Montana. Health insurance, all of the above. I think Missoula needs to really rethink where they're putting these people. I know this is a sensitive subject, but if you want to talk about removing people's dignity pretty quickly, put them next to the sewer, water treatment facility and a compost facility. We have a pretty large building over there. It's pretty busy and it's nasty. It's gross. The compost facility is disgusting. We need to give these folks an opportunity to be successful. And this would be embarrassing if the city approved this. There is not city water. It is not as close as you would think it is either. The city water is up a block from where I'm at, so it's pretty far. We have no water. We have no sewage over there for them. This is a bad idea. I encourage you guys to go out there and stand out there for a minute and see if you could camp with no heat in that location. I can't imagine what type of environmental issues are over there as well to have people there. It's a given, all the compost and the wastewater. I'm sure it's pretty unsanitary. That's my input. And again, I definitely recommend you going out there before you think about putting all these people there. It's embarrassing that we're even considering the location.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please.
Yeah, so do you mean in terms of like,
It's disgusting. It's borderline a landfill, the odor. It's gross. It smells like multiple things throughout the week. That's a fact. Come stand at my building for a few minutes and your stomach will turn.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks,
come
guys.
come on up to the table if you want to speak. Yeah, you're ready to go.
Hello, my name is Caitlin. I work in the same building. Mark is my boss. I will reiterate once again that it is exactly how it sounds. It is a classic case of out of sight, out of mind. No one is over in that area. It's industrialized. Like he said again, there's constant plumes of who knows what in the air. And honestly, thinking about these people, and if we're saying we want these people to reintegrate, we want them to get help, this will be controlled, no alcohol, we want them to be close to you, to like use the resources, the bus, but we're going to put them on the ground in the winter in Montana next to the most like industrial area of the city. I find that unfathomable as well. And since the city also owns the Sleepy Inn and there's some motels for sale, it just doesn't, to me and like my entire staff and all of our neighbors in that area, we believe this will perpetuate the culture that is already down there. Like, I don't want to get into the crime and all that stuff that goes on in there because you don't even really need to talk about that. If you really want these people, like Mark said, to feel like dignity, be humans again, putting them on the ground in the winter, I don't think is helpful.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
yeah, so just to be clear, and I'm not saying we're one of this, but this is one of multiple sites. So the idea being there would be one place where there's really low barriers, because for some of the folks we're talking about, going into a hotel or being in a hard-sided shelter, both of which are part of our plan, a repurposed hotel and hard-sided, heated, cooled shelters that look more like mini houses. For some people, entering into that type of controlled environment is not palatable. And we want to have a place for everybody that is secure and safe and has water. So admittedly, I'm right with you. I wouldn't want to camp this spot in the wintertime either. But if we are part of our hope here is to make it so no one is living where there isn't any sanitation, this would be the lowest barrier. Pretty much anybody can walk in. There'll be some levels of controls, not nearly as nice as a hotel, not nearly as nice as a hard-sided heated shelter, but there needs to be a place for people who don't want either of those and yet shouldn't be camping where they're not supposed to be camping.
For sure. I understand that. I guess my biggest question is how is that going to be controlled? Because that area isn't controlled now.
Absolutely, it's
Um,
totally not controlled
right.
now. You're totally correct. The idea would be security and staff and services, and there's the essence of control and a sense of rules. And if people don't want to abide, then they would have to go somewhere else.
Right. And that would be the worry if you have a spot that's completely, like you said, low baseline, ready for everyone,
Right.
that you would imagine that there would be
There are
some
some people that aren't,
issue.
it's not going to work for, but hopefully it
Exactly.
works for most, which is better than what we got right now, which is total free for all.
Exactly.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Is there any other public comment from folks in the room, here in the Sophie Moise room in the Missoula County Courthouse? How about folks online, Microsoft Teams? If you'd like to comment, please use the raise hand function and we will call on you in the order in which you raised your small electronic hand on the screen. Anyone
We do
out there?
have some phone callers too. If someone is on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute.
Yeah, or yeah, if you're on the phone, hit, as Kyla mentioned, hit *6 to unmute and just start talking and introduce yourself. That's the only way we can bring you into the conversation. Any callers like to comment? Last chance. Okay. Commission, additional questions or comments?
Ask Casey.
Yeah, please.
Casey, are you still out there?
Yep, I'm here.
So, what do you think about what these folks are saying about the general atmosphere of this site?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say ideal. I don't know if there's ever an ideal place to camp in the urban area environment. It's really not too far away from where many people are camping along the river anyway, pretty much right across the river from where the compost site is. So I don't know how much difference it's going to make, but we do need to provide a authorized area for people to camp if we're going to try and address some of the community problems we're currently assessing.
Could you talk about the process we went through to get to this as a potential site?
Yeah, so Adrienne and her team, the incident command team, kind of went through across the whole city, county, and initially narrowed it down to city and county properties because that is a major hurdle in terms of having access to a site and having this happen in a timely manner. So this is one site that they put forward as a recommendation for this style of camp area. So that's why we explored it further and we found it to be a viable site in terms of the details and being able to go through all the necessary regulations to make it happen.
Thanks. Additional questions or comments? And I think Josh put it well. This is not the be all and end all of Operation Shelter or our goal to create housing options for folks. It's meant to be the lowest entry point that would provide some minimal sanitation and order to what right now is a complete free for all in the urban wild, if you will, in certain places in Missoula County, including under and adjoining the Reserve Street Bridge.
Looks like there's we do have a couple questions online.
What?
Best?
Craig Best.
Yeah, hi there. My name's Craig Best. I own and operate Nature's Best. I'm at 1175 Clark Fork Drive. I also own the property next to me at 1207 and 1205 Clark Fork Drive, as well as some other properties in town. And I am a taxpayer, and I do feel that I guess this goes back since I'm right here. My property sits right directly across from the river, and I get to see the people that are camping out there currently and have been for years, and the additional traffic that we get from Walmart and along the river, to the backside of the wastewater treatment plant. You know, and I'm just concerned about the whole situation. We don't have any containment or any sanitation over there on the other side of the river, and already, and that's been years. And I understand you're trying to do this, but I guess my question is, you build this and they will come. That's what we're projecting. We build this, they will come. What if they don't come? Are you going to mandate that they leave those areas? And who's going to clean that area up once or if they do leave? I know we got the fence up there along Reserve, but I feel like, you know, the concrete way, that goes right to the backside of my property. And I fenced off my property a couple of years ago, but we still have, there's a lot of activity. We had a guy that just bought a gun at at the Sportsman's Warehouse. He walked 7 blocks over here and shot himself. That was 3 weeks ago, right on the backside of the property. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff that does happen around here, I feel like. I don't feel like I don't know what it looks like for the police and what their current situation is and how much they patrol out here. I know I've called several times for extra patrol, but that stuff aside, that's the NIMBY stuff, not in my backyard. I don't want it there. I don't want it there. I do feel like it is. I do feel like it is a place that does have. I know I've noticed the stench. It just depends on which way the wind blows, and what they're mixing over there. There's a lot of dust, and being right next to it, I couldn't imagine what that's like. But that being aside, my main thing is, what is our long-term plan as a city? Are we saying we're going to fund this for 10 years, 5 years? And where's the money coming from? Where's the funding coming for this? And I hear the word security, and when I hear the word security, that sounds secure. What is the definition of security, and what does that look like? Does that mean you have 2 security guards that are rent-a-cops out there? Are they, what does that look like? What does security look like? Is it the fence around the perimeter with some service worker in there? What does that security look like?
Thanks, Mr. Best. And as we mentioned earlier, there are many of those details that are still going to be worked out. I will say that the goal is to give folks an option to move to a different location from where they currently are. And I use the Reserve Street location, the illegal encampment that is currently there. That will no longer be an option for folks to stay there. Josh.
My sense, and Anna, Chris, please correct me, is we're looking towards having a couple hired people that would be a security firm to be patrolling the site and a fence. Did I get that right?
So yes, so there would be security personnel there, as well as Casey mentioned, there will be some security cameras to make sure that we can address some of those, as well as the fenced area. In addition to that, again, as a separate item is the piece related to the social service aspect of that. So there will actually be a partnership, and several other partners are putting together an actual care team that will be there to provide services as well.
And on the dollars side, I'd like to respond to Mr. Best. We're using ARPA money right now. So this is federal money we have access to for a couple of years, and then we'll see what happens. This may be a success, and we may want to have to figure out how to continue it. Most likely it's going to sort of be a success, and there'll be a bunch of lessons learned, and we'll have to figure it out after that. What we do know for sure is the situation right now is absolutely untenable. People living in the urban wild in the Reserve Street area, behaving badly in a totally unsanitary situation, that's not acceptable. We have to do something, and this is our first best attempt. Absolutely, it's imperfect, and it is not ideal at all that somebody is going to be camping near this compost site, and the stench of it wasn't really in my mind until the folks came and talked to us today. And We are really strapped here coming up with a place to put these things, thinking it's got to be on public land, city or county land that's close to services. Right away, then the list gets pretty small. So this is kind of our first best attempt. And we will learn a lot, and it's going to be imperfect, and we will adjust as we go.
Juanita?
Oh, and I was going to say that this also allows law enforcement a place to send people, put people, or encourage them to go. Because if we cannot be camping in the urban wild, we need to provide a place for folks to go. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Craig, is that the no camping will be enforced in a way that law enforcement hasn't been able to do.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a place for folks to move to.
And from a legal standpoint, and I believe the Ninth Circuit Court has ruled on this, we simply cannot tell folks to not camp on public land, public property, unless we give them an option of somewhere else to go. And that is exactly what we are endeavoring to do. As easy as it might sound to have local government just tell folks you can't be here, get on down the road. That until such a time as we provide an option, we simply cannot legally do that. We have another caller on the line. Is it a Joshua? Trying to read from a distance here. Joshua Plum?
Yeah. Hi, Josh Plum.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
So our firm has been hired to represent and protect the investment of the Riverside Storage Unit facility. That's located at 3645 Clark Fork Way. Again, a really industrial facility. We do have fencing. We do have security. We've continued to have issues with transient activity throughout the last 5 years that we've been involved with the project. So this is a little bit concerning that we'll have more of that now. A couple points I wanted to make is, the City of Missoula Police Department has always been great and responsive, but they're only able to respond to what they have the ability to. So I'd like to hear what kind of increased presence will be there beyond just security at the facility for the surrounding area. I think that'll be important. And then the parking. So we've battled with those burnt out campers. We've battled with abandoned vehicles, abandoned things along that Clark Fork Drive for years. And we finally got it to a point now, and I think that's with Mark and us and Craig and everybody calling in the area and dealing with that on a regular basis. As people show up, they will bring their items and things too. So I'd like to see some sort of a no parking zone or some sort of ordinance in that area if this does wind up being approved that would address some of those issues. It absolutely will increase our operations costs in litter control, cleanup of facility, security of the fence that's been cut several times. It's a pretty substantial tax bill that these owners are responsible for at this facility. So just kind of wanted that out there and get some feedback on if those are possibilities.
Yeah, thank you. And that is exactly the sort of specific feedback we're looking for as far as things that we can do to mitigate potential impacts. I don't have a specific answer for you today other than knowing, I think as we move forward in the planning process, we want to be able to make sure that we address those concerns and that the intent here is not to make anyone's life more difficult by way of adjoining property owners. Commissioners?
There's no plan here, and it's not in the plan. This is a place where people would camp, not bring their vehicles. So if there are junk vehicles on that road, we will do our darndest to get them hauled away according to the junk vehicle rule. This isn't a place where you can bring your camper. This is a tent spot. And we do have security there will be security on site. And I think when this happens, this will also be more on the radar of the MPD.
And in fact, my expectation would be that there would be fewer instances of folks messing with the fence that you referenced or some of the other concerns just because of our presence there and security on site.
Also want to reiterate that we are trying this and we'll learn. and it will be imperfect. And as we do this and things happen, we will figure out how to adjust to what those consequences are. We learned an awful lot at the TSOS.
Yeah, it is a work in progress. That is,
I just want to reiterate what the other obvious option is doing nothing. And the situation the way it is now is really bad, as all these folks have identified. And what we're attempting to do is make it better.
other folks online who would like to comment? Mr. Best, we'll give you one more shot. We typically just give folks one opportunity here for the sake of time, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious on, I hear you saying, that this is, there's going to be some situational stuff that fails, and I understand that. But my question is, what are other communities doing, and are they putting their, building campsites like this? This can't be like it's just Missoula, Montana, and I'm just curious as the background that you guys have done to look into it, that this is our best deal. This is where we want to spend our money. This is what we want to do, and have some positive influence behind it in a sense where this has worked in A, B, and C. And so I don't hear that. So my question,
let us
is this the best deal?
tell you right now, Mr. Best.
Yeah, we just had Eric Legbold, who's the director of innovation for United Way, go visit other communities that are attempting to do similar things. I believe he visited Bellingham and Denver, and do you remember some of the other ones? There were multiple sites in Denver,
California,
in Olympia. There was one in, I think, one in Northern California, if I remember right. And in that area, they were all doing similar versions of this, and that tour was really valuable. And that he got to bring back lessons learned on what worked and didn't work. Things that we really are taking to heart here is on what he picked up is designing these things properly from the start with the right level of security and fencing and services. That meant a lot. Also, scale really meant a lot. Going too big too soon didn't work. These encampments have to remain the right size. He has a whole presentation on this, and we'd be happy to link you up with Eric, and you guys could hopefully he could show that to you or to neighbors on the places that he visited, lessons learned, what they did right and did wrong.
Yeah, we can absolutely,
if you're interested,
make those presentation materials available for anyone who's interested.
These issues are plaguing so many communities across the Northwest and West.
But point well taken. We do not want to recreate the wheel or replicate problems that have been identified elsewhere. Anyone else online want to comment? And thank you for that, Mr. Best. Okay, with that.
Mark, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, come on up to the microphone, please. And if you could restate your name for the record.
Mark Lax. Kind of coming where the other guys are coming from. And to give you a little perspective about what they're talking about, there has been at least 50 911 calls in the last 2 years on this location. There's ongoing police reports for vandalism. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of my own money spent to clean this area up. If it's removing bushes with tons of needles, if it's cleaning up feces off the sidewalk, if it's car removal that the city is not getting to, like literally not getting to for months. If it's prostitution, if it's drug dealing, if it's vandalism, I'm dealing with it. I have put a ton of effort into this area, personal effort. I've paid people to do this, to clean this up. And it's been super clean since I put my foot down. And frankly, fed up with it. The city is completely unreliable to me as a business owner, a property owner. It's a fact. You will need cops. A security company is not adequate by any means. You'll need good quality city police that are dedicated to this area. You are setting up a very wild third world apocalyptic campground, and you have the ability to not do it, but you're going to look back and realize this isn't working. Shooting for imperfection at the first time is unacceptable. This is not a cheap place to live. Taxes have doubled in 10 years? Come on, guys. We can do better than this for these people, and we can be a better example.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we do have one more hand up online. Martin Kidston.
Martin.
Yes, just a quick clarifier. Are the city and county working together to establish this? And then a service provider will run it? Who will, I guess I'm asking, who's going to operate the facility if it is established?
Chris or Casey?
Sure. So again, the service provider will provide services there. It'll be a combination as far as running it, as far as which pieces are managed by the city and the county and the service provider community. So at this point, it's a combination, just as it is at the temporary safe outdoor space. It's a combination of partnerships that are making that successful.
That's about as much specificity as we have right now, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online who's not spoken previously? Okay, back to the commission. Additional questions or comments? Or motion? And the motion is to authorize staff to submit the application to DPHHS.
Yeah, we're kind of getting in the details and the weeds where people want to have the discussion, but what's before us right now is just getting an application to DPHHS.
It is that, but I think by submitting the application, we are saying we are committed to this plan and making it work and mitigating the concerns that we've heard today.
And yeah, I want to emphasize mitigate, that we are going to make full effort to mitigate the concerns so that we don't have the apocalyptic campground that Mark, that you're referencing, because that's no one's goal.
We do not want that.
And I'm totally sorry on imperfect. I just don't see perfect here.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I would, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
If we apply for this site, does that preclude us from continuing to look?
I would think not. If we had someone come forward with a more ideal site, it's simply beginning the regulatory process for this location. And to date, we have not had anyone come forward with a better location, and this has been vetted through a fairly thorough incident command system process of looking at sites across Missoula County. So I would leave the offer open. If there's someone out there with a parcel of property which they think is better than what we have put forward, let us know.
Yeah, I feel like this is part of a suite of options that we're trying to provide to address this issue. But then, yeah, and we've spent a significant amount of time on the other side of the river, and then spent time at the compost site. And you're right, depending on when the wind blows.
So how about a motion? How about a motion?
But okay, sorry, go ahead.
So what I'd like to see us do is apply for this permit and continue to see if we can find something better, acknowledging that had Adrian and her team work on this for a couple months, looking at city or county land that's available for such a thing is really, really difficult. We don't have private land to work with. You know somebody out there that's got some private land, that would open the suite of options considerably.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead.
I'd move we apply for this permit and keep options open.
Okay, yeah, second, I mean, ears always open.
Okay, further discussion. I will just say that we have done our level best to do due diligence. This has been out in front of the public for many weeks and months, so this should not be a surprise. But if folks do know a property out there that would better suit this particular purpose, let us know.
And thanks, Casey, for all your work on this.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No shit.
Thanks, everyone. And is there any other business to come before us before we adjourn here? Allison Franz, our communications manager.
Now can you
Yeah.
hear me? Okay, yeah, I just wanted to give the website where people can go to comment on this and provide ideas. It's
Yes.
engagemissoula.com/safe-shelter.
And if folks want to access Eric Legvold's PowerPoint presentation, can we make,
Get with Eric to get it to Allison and out to the world.
that would be great. Thank
that.
you.
Okay, thank you. And I missed something here. We actually do, in much smaller font on the second page of our agenda, have a letter to the congressional delegation. And I believe Diana Minetta is going to talk to us ever so briefly on this. This relates to federal energy, or yeah, I guess federal policy related to mitigating climate change and energy. Diana.
Thank you, Commissioners. I will be brief. So what you have before you is a letter to our congressional delegation from Missoula County together with the cities of Missoula, Bozeman, and Helena. The purpose of the letter is to urge our congressional delegation to support strong federal climate legislation that's currently under consideration in Congress. Of course, we're all aware that climate change is impacting Montana today in the form of hotter and drier summers and longer wildfire seasons. And Missoula County, as well as the cities of Missoula, Bozeman, and Helena, have all recognized the tremendous threat this poses to our communities and made commitments to address it, doing what we can locally to address it, including committing to 100% clean electricity by 2030. But of course, there's only so much we can do at the local level. Local governments just don't have the authority to make the kind of sweeping changes needed to address climate change and build a resilient, clean energy economy, while also supporting the economic transition for fossil fuel workers and communities. So that's why we really need our congressional delegation to stand up for Montana by supporting the strong climate policies currently under consideration in Congress, including a clean electricity payment program. So I'll stop there, but happy to discuss further if you'd like.
Thanks. And this will be coming via ready sign for us to sign. Any questions for Diana right now?
No, I'm trying to.
Thanks
look it
for
up. Thank
working
you.
on this, Diana.
Martin, did you have your hand up earlier, or is this related to this item or the previous one?
I forgot to take my hand down, but on this one, I sure appreciate if to hear the feedback once it comes in from our delegation, if that would be possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be eager to hear any feedback ourselves. Thank you. Okay,
Thanks,
well, no action necessary here. It'll come around to us for signature today. Thanks, Diana.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is everything for today, unless there's anything else. Okay, thanks, everyone.